Fashion design and photography are two of the most popular creative industries in Scotland, with thousands of students applying for courses each year, as well as a thriving professional industry throughout Scotland and the UK. In this documentary, we will look at two young professional photographers and attempt to gain insight into how one might operate in this industry, as well as motivations for doing so and what to expect for a career in this line of work.
I got into photography when I was at school in my 6th year, and basically I did a small course with that. It wasn't even really like a level or anything you were doing, it was just kind of a fun on a Friday afternoon at school. So I worked for a year or two, just down in Glasgow, and one of my jobs was working at Black & Lazar's and in the camera department. So I started picking up a lot of digital SLRs, which I'd never used before, and reading a few photography magazines that were just kicking about in the shop. I then went on from there. I applied for a course in photography, which was a portfolio course, which gained me entry to my HND year at the Glasgow Metropolitan.
I was 15 when I left school. I had to leave school because I had a really bad chest infection. The doctors advised that I took some time off to recover. And round about January time, when I came back from a holiday in Australia, I was so bored and I just thought I can't sit about and do nothing. So I looked up the local college. It was Glasgow Metropolitan College, which is now City of Glasgow College. And they had a course on in creative crafts and photography, so it wasn't completely photography, but when I started doing the photography classes I found that I really liked it, and I went and pursued it.
The thing about fashion photography that interested me would probably be the amount of people that you're meeting on a daily basis, or talking to them and getting shoots sorted, and just everything in between, the post-production, like all the airbrushing, all the technology that goes into it, which are pretty much like playing with toys, but knowing what you're doing with them to kind of get your final effect.
The aspects of fashion photography that have interested me, it's more the sort of avant-garde side of it. The way that you can really sort of play with everything. You get the models into really awkward and really unnatural positions, and you get to create something that's really quite surreal. You also have a lot more sort of license to do sort of wacky things. You can do stuff that you really stops and makes people go, whoa.
The most high-profile person I've worked with would be probably quite a lot of DJs and bands that I've been photographing, which started about 2 years ago. And then for companies, I've worked with Cruise Clothing, doing like a fashion line for them. I've done just lots of other events, ineedanappointment.com, which seems to be continued shoots, and just a lot of different and interesting people as well. Like, you can meet so many people that are just as interesting as the kind of big names all the time.
At the minute, it's London Fashion Week. This year, in February 2011, that was definitely my most high-profile shoot. It was the Jaeger collection that I shot.
Some of the horror stories from shoots I've had would just be batteries running out and cracked lenses, as well as a lot of the time when you're photographing in clubs, you've had a fair few drinks beforehand, so it's not like working in a studio or anything like that, which fashion photography, you're always kind of a lot more under control of everything that's happening around you. But in a club night, you're working with a lot of people that are out and about, having a good time on a Friday and Saturday. So things get knocked over, bumped about. For instance, one week I was photographing, I think it was an NDC gig for Jungle Nation, and basically the flash on my camera fell off during a set and it was more or less turned to dust.
Not long after I was back from shooting London Fashion Week, I went to shoot a fashion show for a charity, Platform 2. It was in collaboration with Christian Aid. And I got to the shoot. I always go to these shoots early, and about an hour before we were about to start shooting, I realised that I'd left all my batteries at home. So that was a really bad moment, but thankfully I got somebody to bring them in for me just in time.
I think it's a lot more creative down in Glasgow. There's a lot more going on. The creative industries are a lot stronger. You get a lot more opportunities down here. So staying down here was pretty much the only sensible option.
I would say what would set Glasgow fashion apart from the rest of the world Probably the sort of darker theme of it, particularly with the commercial stuff that I've done for fashion boutiques like Riptinka, the Jazz Emporium, Princess. They've all been pretty, maybe not as much Princess. Princess is more sort of girly and commercial, but certainly in the Jazz Emporium and Riptinka it's been very almost gothic, like definitely a lot. Sets a darker tone. It's also very much more sort of avant-garde. Again, it's very sort of out there and bright, and it's not, you wouldn't blend into the crowd wearing it, put it that way.
I don't care about your vintage jeans or the supermodel girls that are in your scene. In your dreams, you all look the same to me.